Everyone having a right to a safe and stable home benefits us all.
The British monarchy has endured many scandals, but none quite like this. For centuries, the crown jewels and royal heirlooms have stood as symbols of history, guarded under the tightest of security. Yet piece by piece, they began to disappear. At first, the palace tried to keep it quiet, searching for explanations. But when the truth came out, it wasn't a band of thieves or some outside plot. The trail of betrayal pointed directly to Queen Camilla herself. When irrefutable evidence landed on Prince William's desk, he had to act. In a move that stunned the world, he stripped her of her title. But why did William take such a drastic step? And why would Camilla risk everything by stealing jewels in the first place? Let's find out. The missing jewels. It began quietly, like a faint draft slipping under a closed door. During a routine inventory check, palace aides noticed that something was missing. Initially, they assumed the items had been loaned to museums or relocated for restoration. After all, the vaults held thousands of heirlooms. An absence here or there didn't usually raise alarm, but weeks turned into months, and still there was no sign of the jewels. Among the missing pieces was a sapphire brooch, once worn by Queen Victoria, a pearl choker famously gifted to Princess Diana, and a diamond-encrusted snuff box dating back to the Georgian era. These treasures had been clearly recorded in past inventories, yet now their presence appeared only in the record books. No one dared to speak the word theft inside the royal household, but tension grew with each passing day. Palaces are built on a fragile balance of trust, duty, and loyalty. For centuries, those jewels had been more than ornaments. They were symbols of continuity and history, guarded by the tightest security. Then came a whisper that slipped beyond palace walls. At a private charity event, an art dealer mentioned a tiara that was recently purchased in Monaco. It was identical to one from the Queen Mother's collection. The question hung in the air: how could such a vital piece of history appear at auction? Prince William's aides began quietly cross-checking records. The deeper they looked, the more irregularities appeared. Banquet photographs revealed missing jewels that should have been in circulation. Despite endless searches through servant corridors and royal salons, the jewels were nowhere to be found. Rumors refused to fade. Were these treasures just lost to time, or had someone with access to the vaults stolen them? The investigation. By the time the third piece went missing, William knew this matter could no longer be ignored. A public scandal was the last thing the monarchy needed. So William decided to bring in Simon Harcourt, a former intelligence officer and private security consultant, to solve the matter. Their meeting took place at Kensington Palace. That day, William didn't speak as an heir to the throne, but as a man determined to protect his family's legacy. He handed Harcourt a notebook listing the missing items and asked him to trace their path, and thus the investigation began. Harcourt started by comparing palace records with auction catalogs. He searched through old photographs, sale documents, and private listings. For weeks, nothing appeared. Then, one night in Paris, he found a match. A diamond necklace, identical to one worn by Queen Elizabeth II, was listed under a vague description, yet it looked almost the same as in the archives. The seller's name was hidden behind a company front, but the broker was well known in Europe's royal circles. From there, the trail grew stronger. Harcourt tracked down a brooch described as mid-19th century and a gold bracelet engraved with the writing of King George VI. Even though these items were sold at different auction houses, they shared the same patterns, the same legal representatives, the same luxury couriers, and the same offshore accounts. This was no accident, it was a coordinated operation. In Antwerp, a retired appraiser admitted he once examined jewels with royal markings for a client who spoke English but made his phone calls in French. His words confirmed Harcourt's suspicion. These sales were intentional, hidden behind legitimate channels. Harcourt returned to William with photographs and a timeline of events. To William, each heirloom meant more than wealth. They were part of his family's history. He was determined to protect them. But now the investigation had changed. It was no longer a rumor. It had become a pursuit, and the path ahead pointed uncomfortably close to the crown itself. The shocking connection to Camilla. The evidence pointed to a name Harcourt had hoped never to see: Queen Camilla. She had access to the vaults and the authority to move jewels for restoration or diplomatic use. After taking a closer look, they discovered she had traveled with Everly to Geneva, Paris, and Monaco. Auction house staff also remembered a distinguished British woman delivering velvet boxes. One handler described how she removed her gloves before revealing a sapphire and diamond brooch identical to one missing from the collection. For weeks, Harcourt worked to confirm the lead. When the dossier was finally complete, with photographs, auction records, and travel logs, he presented it to William. William listened in silence, each piece of evidence weighing on him like centuries of history. This was more than stolen property. It was betrayal at the highest level. To see those heirlooms sold into private hands was like erasing pieces of Britain's past. At first, he could not believe it. How could his stepmother, trusted to represent the crown, damage it so deeply? But soon, William had to make a choice: protect Camilla or save the monarchy. William confronts Camilla. Camilla was set to meet William in the blue drawing room at Buckingham Palace, chosen for its privacy and the seriousness of the matter. Camilla entered with calm composure and sat across from him. Without a word, William slid the dossier toward her. She glanced at it, then looked into his eyes. "What is this about?" she asked coolly. William laid out the evidence: auction records, travel logs, and testimonies. Camilla listened quietly. She admitted traveling with Everley, but dismissed the jewels as a coincidence. When pressed, she said many heirlooms were often moved quietly for restoration and diplomatic purposes. But when William asked for proof, she fell silent, and that silence said everything. The air grew heavy. William's voice was steady but firm as he reminded her of the sacred duty to protect the crown's legacy. Instead of showing regret, she began to accuse him of falling into the gossip. The meeting ended without resolution. Camilla rose and left the room without saying another word. Camilla hadn't confessed, but now she realized exactly how much William knew. The fallout. The next morning, the palace was full of tension. Whispers spread that something serious had happened. Camilla's name was removed from upcoming events, and her absence made things look worse. William called his advisors together. Harcourt confirmed that another royal jewel had been found abroad. On a gray London morning, William prepared a statement. In the palace press room, facing a silent group of journalists, he spoke about duty, heritage, and tradition. Calm and steady, he announced that Camilla would no longer hold the title of Queen Consort. Her public roles and patronages would be reassigned. William thanked her for her service, but his message was clear: trust had been broken. The announcement, which took less than 5 minutes, spread across the globe within hours. People everywhere were shocked, and by the time the world heard the news, Camilla had already left quietly for an unknown destination. A monarchy changed forever. In the days that followed, the monarchy stepped into uncharted waters. Commentators called William's decision one of the boldest moves ever made by a future king. Some praised him for accountability, while others warned it could tear the family apart. Inside the palace, changes began. Titles were adjusted, programs were rewritten, and the security of the vault was tightened. Harcourt stepped back after completing his task, but the dossier was kept locked away from the public. For William, this was a turning point. He wasn't just acting as a leader. He was protecting his family's history. The jewels, the vaults, the traditions were not just relics. They were living symbols, and keeping them safe required painful choices. By taking this step, William made it clear that family bonds could never come before duty and heritage. The decision shocked the nation. With Camilla now removed from public life and questions still surrounding the missing jewels, Britain remains deeply divided. Was William's decision the mark of a strong future king, or did it fracture the royal family beyond repair? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Also, consider liking this video if you enjoyed it and subscribing to our channel. Also, turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss out on our future videos like these. Until then, see ya!